Yesterday, December 6th, at approximately 5:30 a.m., there was a report of a fire at 14 North Plum Street in Lancaster City. Firefighters responded to the scene. The Lancaster City Police, 1 adult male and 3 children, were able to escape the blaze. Firefighters located the body of a woman in the home. The woman's been identified as Olga Sanchez Reyes, 30-year-old female, lives at that residence. And at this time, we're handling this as a homicide and as an arson. We're still working with the coroner's office, and we're waiting for that determination. But right now, based on the information we have at this point, that's how we're investigating it. This crime is a sinister crime. The home had 3 children in it at the time, and to set a fire in a homicide and have a woman burn up in a house like that, really very sinister. With the investigation, and we can't give too many details right now, the investigation is pretty intense, and we believe that this was the deceased was targeted, and we're positive that at some point we're going to make an arrest in this case, and the person that committed this crime should know that as we're standing here speaking, that those detectives, the Pennsylvania State Police Fire Marshal Office and Lancaster County detectives, are working tirelessly to bring this to an end. And everybody, including all the residents of that neighborhood, the family of the deceased, are very anxious for this person to be brought to justice. One of the children in the house, a 13-year-old boy, was able to lead his sisters to the attic of the property. A neighbor, Jonathan Santiago, a young man in the neighborhood, was able to assist in bringing the girls out of the house. He carried one out and led them to safety through another property. And it just shows the kind of person that the young man is and the neighbor, because I don't know if any of you've ever been involved in a fire, but just the heat alone is intense enough to make most people stay clear. However, it's pretty obvious that this young man, Mr. Santiago, went into immediate action, and we're all pretty convinced that he probably saved his 3 children's lives. So we're not releasing the young man's name in the house right now. The family has requested some privacy, which is very understandable at this time. But as we move forward with this investigation, and we will definitely update you as we get that information. And if there are any questions at this time.
Are the children right now in protective custody, or is there?
Well, the two girls, 8 and 9, they're in critical but stable condition at area hospitals. The 13-year-old boy is going to be fine, and the adult male in the house is not hospitalized at this point either.
Can you describe the extent of the injuries of the 2 kids?
Well, they received burns and smoke inhalation, and at ages 8 and 9, I mean, you can only imagine, besides physical injuries, that's a pretty frightening thing for a child to have to go through. I mean, our investigation is focused, and obviously I can't give out much more information than we're giving at this time, but just to say that it was clearly to us an intentional act, and that we plan to bring somebody to justice on this.
Is there any evidence that the victim was deceased before the fire was set?
Well, that's what we're actually waiting for the medical examiner's office. The deceased was the body was badly burned, and which obviously is going to make that a little difficult for the examination by the coroner's office. So, but at some point we will know that information.
Is this a family unit, mom, dad, children? Is that?
Yeah, it's a single family dwelling.
But this is the mom and dad of these 3
Yeah,
children?
this is a family.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Exactly.
To that end, to answer your question, we also are sending evidence to state and federal labs, and also the coroner's office. It'll take a while for them to get their information back from lab exams as well. The autopsy was just this morning.
Right.
Exactly.
Chief, did the fire start in the general area where the victim was found?
Well, part of the investigation and evidence still being collected at the scene, and fire marshal, we'll have a full report on that. But it started in the house and it quickly spread.
So it started inside. It wasn't started.
Yeah,
outside.
it was inside the house, as far as we know.
Was the 13-year-old and the father, were they able to help police give information about what happened immediately preceding the fire, or any details?
Well, part of our investigation includes extensive interviews, and obviously with the age of the children in the house, that we're delicate with that. That's all we can really say at this time.
No word on if there was a break-in prior to the fire or a known...
No, again, I mean, if anything else turns up that would indicate something different or points in another direction, we'll report that. But right now, what we've released is pretty much where we're taking our investigation.
Do you have a timeline on how things will come about?
Well, as always, when the Criminal Investigation Division, led by Captain Pete Anders, again, they're working around the clock, and history will tell you that they're doing the absolute best they can to resolve this as quickly as possible. But on top of that, the person that committed this horrible crime, they know they did it, and perhaps there's somebody out there that also has information about this crime, and we're hoping that we get that information as well, and that obviously would speed up the investigation, the more information that we receive.
What's your message? Oh, I'm sorry.
We've also received the assistance of the entire Lancaster County detectives, which is really a pretty seasoned group, as well as the Pennsylvania State Police, and we've had offers of assistance with both lab work and personnel from alcohol, tobacco, and firearms.
What's your message to the person out there who did this?
Well, the message to the person out there who did it, you just heard Captain Anders say, all the law enforcement officials that are investigating this crime, that we will make an apprehension of it, and we will not rest until this person is in custody. And at that point, we'll be very happy to proceed with making sure that person never gets to do anything like this again.
As far as crimes go, I mean, you maybe just describe a little bit more personally what you've seen, what you've dealt with.
Well, in my nearly 30 years, I've seen crimes of arson involved homicide, and there's something about those crime scenes that you never forget, and it's a horrible way for somebody to have to die. So if you talk to probably any police officer that's been involved in a case like that, there's things about a fire scene that you'll never ever forget.
Chief, you mentioned that the deceased, you believe, was targeted. Can you talk about that a little bit more? Why?
No, at this point, it really can't. We're confident that we're narrowing the investigation, and if there's any concern for the community out there, there shouldn't be. Unfortunately, we believe the deceased was targeted. So this isn't a random act of arson. That this was clearly intentional as far as we're concerned.
And one of the things, Mr. Santiago, if he gets here, we'll try to point him out. Certainly his actions were heroic. I expect the city will commend him down the road. And, again, emphasizing what the chief said, while we're not commenting on what we believe is motive at this time, and I respect you guys asking that, we certainly feel that there's no threat to the general public.
Yeah, so, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. I was just going to, I don't know if Captain Anders, if you could answer this and if you could move up to the mic so we could hear you, but can you talk a little bit about the painstaking care that you're taking with the investigation? I know all day yesterday you had detectives going door to door, the crime scene crew was out, you had, it just seemed like...
Yeah, well,
I think the chief can pretty much answer
I mean,
that.
honestly, if you've seen any investigation in this city, even prior to my arrival, the history of this department and the history of the detectives, and you heard him mention Lancaster County detectives, a lot of those detectives were formerly members of this bureau. and on any homicide, any crimes against persons in Lancaster City, it's besides it being their duty, and they feel a sense of responsibility until the investigation's cleared. So there's a lot of time and effort put in on this investigation and any homicide investigation for that fact.